On June 26, 1981, Chicago police responded to a welfare concern at the Illinois home of 87-year-old Sigrid Barginde. Over the previous 2 months, the pensioner had voiced distressing claims about being tormented by shadowy figures inside her residence, claims which were initially dismissed by those around her. Now, after several days of silence, authorities discover a chilling scene. Sigrid lies face down, lifeless, in her bed, with her hands bound behind her back. With no signs of forced entry, the circumstances of her demise have never been determined, leaving the question, who or what caused the death of this terrified old woman? Sigrid Barginde was an 87-year-old retiree who had spent the majority of her life living in the bustling city of Chicago. Once married, she now faced solitude in her later years, living alone after the passing of her husband. Although previously independent, Sigrid's health was now in steep decline, having lost the majority of her sight and ability to hear. In spite of this, the pensioner was still determined that she was happy to reside alone. However, the tranquil life that Sigrid once enjoyed was about to transcend into terror and torment. One evening in April of 1981, the 87-year-old had been taking a nap in her living room when she awoke to a chilling sight. Making her way to the bedroom, she was faced with 3 dark, shadowy figures in her home. Sigrid began to scream, causing one of the figures to strike her repeatedly in the head and face before covering her with a sheet and shoving her into the downstairs closet. When the sounds of voices went silent, Sigrid crawled from the closet and alerted authorities to what had happened. Upon their arrival, she showed them a black eye and the bloodied sheet. However, the police were skeptical that the story was fabricated when they found no signs of forced entry. No further action was taken by the police, and the terrified woman was left alone. Over the next few weeks, unsettling incidents continued to occur when Sigrid noticed her telephone sounded unusual when speaking into it. She would ask the 2 officers who had attended the earlier incident to take a look, and after visiting a repair shop, they were told pieces of the receiver had been ripped out. One of the officers, Bill Melamine, would go on to say, "That's when I started to half believe her." Bill and his partner bought Sigrid a new phone, this time screwing the receiver on so tight that even they couldn't remove it. But chillingly, 1 week later, they received another call from Sigrid, this time from a neighbour's phone. The receiver had been ripped out again. They visited Sigrid's home and stuck the parts back on with super glue, but the next day she would return from an outing to find the receiver gone and the entire phone ripped out by the cord. On June 18th, 8 days before her death, the increasingly frightened and frail old lady was mugged on the way home from the bank, however, managed to fight off the assailant by holding onto her purse. Everything was beginning to get too much for Sigrid. She was being terrorised in her own home, constantly looking over her shoulder. She'd become afraid to go to sleep, and no one could help. Although Officer Bill and his partner could find no evidence as to who was doing this, they drove through the neighbourhood to check on Sigrid several times a week. The officers would later say that she was scared to death, often bursting into tears and crying inconsolably. The last thing that they would ever tell the terrified pensioner was, "If you don't get out of here, you're going to die." Over the next few days, no one heard from Sigrid, and on June 26th, her friend contacted the authorities to report this. Upon arriving at the scene, the police encountered an eerie silence. As they meticulously searched through the downstairs rooms, everything seemed undisturbed, with all the furniture neatly arranged. However, ascending the stairs, they were confronted with a haunting scene. Sigrid lay lifeless in her bed, face down, hands bound behind her back with a brown scarf. Despite finding no evidence of forced entry in the home, the Violent Crime Unit acknowledged a crucial detail. Sigrid couldn't have tied her hands on her own. Consequently, they concluded that intruders were present at the time of her death, reinforcing their suspicions as the phone and its cord were once again forcibly ripped out. The autopsy report revealed no indications of foul play, ruling out bullet wounds and signs of strangulation. Sigrid's official cause of death was attributed to natural causes, with the likelihood of a heart attack induced by the distress of being bound. Although the investigation officially concluded on June 30th, the mystery persisted. In September of 1981, Sigrid's niece, assisting in clearing out the home, uncovered a chilling discovery. Lifting the bedsheets where her aunt's body was discovered, she found them saturated with a significant amount of blood. Despite photographing this disturbing evidence, authorities failed to pursue it, going so far as to deny the family access to Sigrid's case files. Since her passing, Sigrid's family has engaged private investigators to uncover the source of her torment and eventual demise. Despite their efforts, no evidence has surfaced, and the case continues to be an unsolved mystery.